to my new YouTube channel. So I am a first year year 3 teacher starting in September, and I've had an Instagram where I post sort of all my teaching stuff, my ideas, my resources, my lesson plans, and sort of my day-to-day on how I've been doing on my training, and that is Shiedu Sensei. And I recently decided to start a YouTube channel now that I've got a job to show you guys my day-to-day as an NQT and how I get on with that. Also how I use my resources in my teaching, and just how I use my creativity and stuff as I go along. So my first video today is all about PowerPoint and how I use that to make my resources, because that's a question I've had on Instagram quite a lot. Lots of people asking me what I use to make my stuff, how I do it and stuff like that. So I thought rather than sort of tell you guys how to do it on Instagram, I would make a video and I will show you guys how to do it. So in this video today I will be sharing some of my tips and tricks that I use, the different tools that I use in PowerPoint, and then once I've done that I will just go ahead with a time lapse and show you guys me actually making a resource. So if you are interested in that, stick along, stick by me, stick with me, stay here. And that is what I'll be showing you today. So let's get started with the first thing I want to show you guys, and that's how to change your slide size to A4. So when you open a new document, a new presentation, you start off with this, the title screen, or the title layout. So the first thing you want to do is change it from title layout to blank, and to do that you just right click on the small presentation in the preview bar, go down to layout and select blank. That just helps that if you make a new slide, it will stay blank rather than reverting back to the previous layout. The next thing you want to do is go to design, go across to slide size over here, and scroll down to custom slide size. Select from the first drop down menu A4 paper, and then you can decide if you want it in portrait or landscape. Now it depends on what you're making, and because I'm making a worksheet I'm going to need mine to be portrait so it fits in the books. Click OK. These two options then come up asking you to maximise it, so to make your content bigger to fit your new slide size, or to ensure fit, which will make it smaller to fit your slide size. Now for you have an empty document, so it won't matter to you, but for me I've got some writing in there, so I'm going to choose maximise. And there you have it, you have got an A4 piece of paper ready for you to turn into whatever you need. So once you've got your A4 piece of paper, here are the other tips and tricks I like to use. So the first one I want to show you is change shape. So here I've just inserted a rectangle, and with PowerPoint anything we insert just comes standard as this blue. I think it's obviously with a theme, I'm not sure, but everything comes up blue. So I'm going to format this the way that I have things on my resource. So I have everything with no film, so I'm going to go to format, shape fill, no film, and with a black outline. And that black outline is always 2 1/4, because I thought 3 is too thick and 2 1/4 is just perfect. So once I've done that, if I'm making something and I think, oh, I don't need a rectangle, I need a circle or a triangle, I want to change the shape. So I can either go to insert and insert shape there, but as you see, everything that is inserted in new comes up in that blue colour, and I've got to go through formatting it all over again. So the easy way to avoid having to do that is to go to change shape, copy and paste. So I'm using the keyboard shortcuts Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to copy and paste. And instead of going to format to go to insert, I'm going to go to format, edit shape and change shape. And from there I'm going to set my triangle. And as you can see, it's still in that black outline 2 1/4 point weight that I like. I can then do the same to get another shape, so just copy and paste it, format, edit shape, change shape, and now I want a circle. It will always be the same dimension, so same width and height, and the same formatting as the original shape. So that's an easy way to change shape without having to go through all the formatting. The next thing I want to show you is how to change table borders the easy way. So again, I've inserted a new table and it's got that blue, so I'm just going to quickly change it in design to my black and white. So I'm going to find the black and white one, select that, and then as I'm looking at it, I can see that these borders are too thin. They are not my 2 1/4 borders. So I want to change that. Now the way that you usually do this is by going here to point to the line weight and setting your weight, and then a little pencil will come up. Now that wants you to draw on your lines to change the border, which A is time consuming, and B, if you slip just a little bit like that, you end up drawing a whole new table. Now that can be really frustrating if you're going through a big table like this, having to change every single line individually. So the easy way to do this is to select your table, and just like before, go to and select your weight, your line weight, but rather than using that pencil, you go over here to borders, to the drop down menu and select all borders. That'll then change all the borders for you. Now, even if you don't want to do all the borders, you just want to change the inside borders, so those inside lines, you can go to borders and inside borders, and it will change those all for you. A much easier way for you to do that. The next thing I want to show you on the theme of changing is how to easily change pictures of icons. So here I've got one of the book icons that I use for literacy, and I want to change that to a calculator icon for maths. So rather than go to insert pictures, I'm going to go to format, over to change picture from file, because I say my laptop, and I'm going to find calculator just by typing in C, double tap, and it's going to change to calculator. Now that is an easy way to do that, because if I change the size, the same as shapes, it will keep to the same size and dimensions with the original icon. So maybe have a mini calculator in the corner to signify that it's maths, and now I want a mini notepad to show that it's literacy. It will be the same. Well, what do you know? You learn something new every day. It's not the same size. Either way, easy way to change your pictures. The same thing for your icons. So if you go to format, change graphic, this one's slightly different, and then from icons, and these are the icons that come with PowerPoint. I'm going to change it from a cat to a dog. I'll just click on the dog icon, press it, and change to the dog. Next thing I want to show you is using guidelines. So on a lot of my worksheets, I like things to be centered and in the middle, and that can be tough to do by eye. Luckily, PowerPoint comes with guidelines. If you right click on your empty document, here it has guides, grid and guides. You can add the horizontal guide to stay in there. You can add, you can add the vertical guide, the horizontal guide, and you can also add the grid. What I want to show you is smart guides. So smart guides, if I insert a box, and I'm not going to bother formatting it, I'm going to just use the big box. Move it along, you see lots of little red lines moving along with it. Those are telling me when it's centered, when it's in line with something already on the page, so it's telling me it's in line with the top of that text box. And it can also tell me when it's horizontally and vertically along the page. So if I then insert another box, I can check whether that is going to be centered with the same box, and these arrows are showing me that it's the same distance from the text box and from the first box I entered. So those are your smart guides. The next thing I want to show you is how to duplicate to differentiate. Just going to delete those guidelines because they are in my way now. Bye. There we go. So how to duplicate to differentiate. So this is a worksheet that I've made for practicing and revising our 3, 6 and 9 timetable, designed to help them find patterns between those three. So if I have some children who will find that tricky, I want to change the times table, but I don't want to change the whole worksheet. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it. Now you can either right click on the slide in the preview bar and set duplicate slide, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control D to duplicate slide. Once I've done that, I'm just going to go through and change the numbers 3, 6 and 9 to 1, 2 and 4. Well, to 2 and 4. Everyone knows their ones. 2 and 4. Change it there. Now, obviously, I now need to get rid of that box. That's a good time to show you guys how I'm going to use the centering. I need to center these two things together. So I'm going to make sure they line up, and then I'm going to highlight the 4 as well, group it, and then that becomes one shape. One shape that I can now move. So I'm going to move that along till it's centered, drop it down, and then ungroup it. So it's back to being 4 separate items. And that leaves me with 2 similar sheets, and everything that's changed is the times table. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to use sections to organise. So if we have a look down my preview bar, I've got all of these different tips. but I can organise some of them. For example, these first three are all showing you how to change something. So I'm going to add a section for changing. I'm going to right click in the gap in the preview bar and select add section and just type in how to change and rename that. Now there's a little section called how to change. I'm going to go down to my last one in that section, which is changing pictures. And above using guidelines, I'm going to right click in that part, add section, and select and just rename it guidelines. And enter. Now if I close that how to change, or only close those three and leave the rest open. I'm going to add another little section here called using duplicates. And I'm going to just close guidelines and it leaves the rest open. So that is how I would use sections to organise a file. If I quickly show you the morning station I'm working on, I've got them by day. So all of the Monday sheets are in one place, I can close that. All of the Tuesday sheets are in one place, I can close that. All of the Wednesday sheets are in one place, all the Thursday sheets, and special events like birthdays, Halloween and Christmas are all in one place. So that is how I'm using sections to organise my documents and my projects. So the last thing I want to show you, the second last thing I want to show you is just some other little tricks. I had to perfectly centre text every single time. So for example, if you're writing in a shape, and my advice to you is to never write directly in the shape, because if you click on a shape and start typing, you can write in shapes that way, but I find that it's never usually centered the way I want it, so I never write in shapes. I always insert a text box in. So if I show you that, to get perfectly centered text every time, I make my text box the size of the shape and then center it. And I also will then group them together. That way, if I need this box to be bigger, as I move the box, the text moves and it's also staying centered each time. I'm just going to copy and paste that text box into this shape to show you again. Going to make the text box the same size as the shape. I'm going to group it. And then no matter how big that shape is, that text will always be right in the middle of it. The next thing I want to show you is how to use icons and pictures to make peekaboo pictures, I call them. This is just something that I use sort of for all of my products. I always have a picture sort of peeking out. So I'm going to just sort of make like a mini YouTube icon for myself here. First thing I'm going to do is just position the icon until the red line is against that shape and it is centered, using my two guidelines, my vertical and horizontal guideline, to tell me when the box is in the middle of my icon and when my icon's in the middle of the box. Once I've done that, I'm going to use the format crop tool to make it half of that icon, and then I'm going to send it to back just behind the box. Once I've done that, I'm going to center my text a little bit differently than I did before, because now the center is where that picture ends, where that icon ends. So I'm going to make sure that those guidelines are at the end of the icon, at the end of the box. Make it centered, and that is how I make my peekaboo pictures. Once I'm done that, I will group the whole thing so it becomes one shape that I can move all together. The last thing I want to show you, hidden under here, are some keyboard shortcuts. So the first one is Control-Click. Now Control-Click is just an easy way to copy a whole shape. So if I Control-Click on my little icon, it will copy it as many times as I like. This is good if you're doing something like count how many sheets, so maybe how many triangles are on the page. Rather than inserting 1,000 different triangles, you can maybe copy and control and click some of one size, make it smaller, then control click some of those. Another shortcut is Control M, and that's just to add a new slide. If you're like me and you're working on a laptop and you haven't got a mouse but you've got a trackpad, it can be difficult to keep maneuvering, so keyboard shortcuts are a lot easier. And the last one that I think I've mentioned is Control D to duplicate. The very, very last thing, and I promise, that I want to share with you are some frequently asked questions. So one question I'm asked quite a lot is, what font do I use? So here are my three main fonts that I use. I'm currently using all of my projects. These are my three mains. So it is KG blank space solid, KG First Time in Forever, and KG the Fighter. All of these fonts are available from Kimberly Gershwin's website, TPT store, and on some font websites. I will link them down below. And the last question I want to share is where I get my inspiration from. This is another question I get asked quite often. So from Instagram, I often see something I think is a good idea and I adapt it for my classroom. From the National Curriculum and Programmes of Study, honestly, I go through and look for what I need to teach my children, and then I'll make something to either revise it or teach it. And lastly, the need in my classroom, like the workbook I'm currently working on, I just thought of that because it's something that we need in our classroom. So that is all of my tips. So in the next clip, I'm going to be showing you a time lapse of me making a product. So the product that I'm currently working on is a morning workbook. It's for the children when they come in, so that they don't just sort of come in and do nothing between coming in and register. They have something to get on with. So in my class, we've got morning stations, and there's 5 stations, Monday, Friday. So it's Maths Monday, Tinker Tuesday, which is a STEM activity, Writing Wednesday, Thinker Thursday, which is reflecting on real world events, and then Free Choice Friday, where they have like a bingo board where they can choose their activity. So what I'm going to show you in the clip is just one of the worksheets that I'm making for that workbook for them to do, and I'll be using most of the tricks that I've showed you in the previous clip, and maybe a few other little ones that I just picked up along the way. So have a look at that. So that is it from me. That's the end of my video, my very first YouTube video on how to make resources using PowerPoint. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and share it with other NQTs, trained teachers or teachers that you think might benefit, and hopefully I've inspired one or two of you to use PowerPoint to make your own resources, or at least show you some tricks that you didn't know before. if you like this video, please go ahead and like it, and if you would like to, please subscribe to my channel. I've got some more videos coming in the future. I've got my classroom tour to show you my NQT classroom for September, and I'll be starting day in the life with an NQT videos when I start my job in September as well. I've also got NQT training on Wednesday, so I would probably, I'd like to take you along to that and show you what goes on there to give any trainees or future NQTs the idea of what they're getting themselves into. Also, if you would like to, please follow my Instagram. I post a lot more over there. I post about my new products, upcoming products, more in depth about my classroom and what I'm doing in there, and also all my hauls of where I've got my resources and supplies for my classroom as well. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I will leave the link in the description box below. Please comment any questions that you might have about PowerPoint, being NQT, or anything like that, and I would love to hear from you all. Thank you for sticking with me to the end, and this has been really fun filming my very first video. Thank you. Bye.